kind enough to interview Lee and explain to the people what his future is and what he's been up to. Okay, on stage now, Lee Priest, if we can have a chair up from the audience somewhere.
What about two?
Two chairs, yeah.
So he's pretty short. He could. No, he won't start. So I could sit down and he could stand up. And then,
okay, Paul, Lee, if you can come on stage, please. Andy, where are you? Somewhere. Anybody, come on stage.
probably just pumping his arms up a little bit.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for coming.
No, just two.
We've got it, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Graham. Thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Lee Priest. Australia's greatest ever professional bodybuilder. Lee, you've been pro bodybuilder, you are, because you've been pro bodybuilding now for 17 years. You've been living in the United States. You've become one of the most well-known and well-respected faces in the sport of pro bodybuilding. But probably the most amazing thing is you've been through 3 eras of bodybuilding.
I know.
Through the 90s.
Long time, yeah.
And you're still here, you're making a comeback, you haven't competed for some time. When was the last time, for those who don't know, that you got on stage in an IFBB Pro show?
Well, it would have been your show back in '06 was the last time I was competing in a IFBB Pro show.
And you just about made it back to our Pro show last year, you got your licence reinstated, you sorted out all of your trouble you got into the powers to be, again. And you were just about ready to go. Being a good son that you're helping your mum move some furniture and tore your bicep off the bone.
Yeah, it wasn't actually the bicep, it was actually like a tendon that actually holds the bicep up, so when it detached from up here it just fell down, the bicep moved down, but then they pulled it back up and put a few screws back into it, and it's holding on at the moment pretty good.
Yeah, it's come back up all right. Of course,
they say muscle memory, but you know, might have a bit of Alzheimer's in there, but it might come back.
Might come back. Not your mind. We had our pro show, our Australian Pro Grand Prix, our 10th year, 4 weeks ago, and you went very, very close to making it. And for those who don't know, Lee was sort of training for the show, and he had an arrangement with a sponsor to go over to the Arnold Classic, and being the professional that he is, and also being the fact that everybody was ready to write him off, he wanted to be 100% before he competed, and he got pretty close, and then had to go to America to do some work with the company, and said, look, I can't diet and travel and make this commitment all at once, so I'll get in the best shape I can, but I won't compete. Then you didn't end up going to the Arnold Classic anyway, you kept on dieting, and we got Lee to take his shirt off at the Australian Pro Grand Prix, and wow, ladies and gentlemen, he would have placed somewhere in the top end of the show. He was in 90, well, your upper body, you're in 95% of your best shape. Just how close did you think you come to stepping on stage?
Yeah, it was touch and go. Maybe I've had a couple more weeks and, you know, I got into it a bit more. I probably would have, but like I said, I didn't really want to rush it and just get on stage just to, you know, say here I am, I'm back on stage again. When I get back on stage, I actually want to be 100% or pretty much 99%, but I don't want to step on stage just for the fact of being up there again, so I'll just make sure I do it right.
Now, you kept on dieting after that, after our Pro Grand Prix, you kept on dieting for these guest poses last week and this week. I saw you. In fact, I announced you last week on the Sunshine Coast, first time for 4 years on a competitive bodybuilding stage, and you got yourself into pretty good shape. How happy are you with how your body's responded following the surgery and also following your first diet in 4 years?
Yeah, pretty good, because you know, anyone that knows me in the off season, I hate dieting, so you know, for me to diet now for almost getting close to 20 weeks in the off season is pretty unheard of for me. So I was happy with how I was looking, but you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you read comments where, oh, his legs weren't in shape, his glutes weren't ripped. Well, it's like, hey, I was guest posing, not competing, and, you know, people say my legs aren't ripped when I'm competing, so I don't know why I'd expect to see them ripped when I'm guest posing. So, but, you know, I'm happy with how I look as far as I said for guest posing and that. So, like I said, when I get ready for a show, you know, it's a whole different mind frame when you diet for a guest posing compared to dieting for a contest, you know, because dieting for a guest posing, you get in somewhat good shape and you do the cardio, but then there's days where I won't do the cardio, and then there's days where I will go to McDonald's and the cake shops in between, so yeah.
You've been known to eat a fair bit of junk food in the off-season, Lee. What's the fattest you've ever got? Seriously, the heaviest? and most out of blimp shape that you've ever got. We know how good you can look when you're in shape, but I don't think people quite realise just how much potential you've got in the off-season.
Average for beans 285 pounds, so I'm not sure what that is in kilos.
Or 125 or something?
Somewhere around there, probably 125, 130 mark.
Your height could be a pretty sight.
6 foot. Yeah, so as I said, like I said, people always ask me why I get heavy, but I don't do it. It's like off season. I don't care how I look. You get a lot of, when I lived in the States, there's people who go to Gold's Gym all the time, want to have that model look, and they want to walk around in shape all the time and have the girls look at them. It's like, if I'm not competing, I just like to enjoy life and have fun. I'll go racing and at the racetrack just go eat hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever else. So, life's too short to diet all the time. So I just enjoy eating food. So when I'm not dieting, I just eat and eat, and whatever I get, whatever the body weight is, that's what it is. And then I'll diet down to whatever I have to diet down to. So it's never been a problem getting in shape. So.
Well, you're in pretty good shape now. It's not a bad launching pad for the rest of your career, and what a great career it's been. But what's next on the agenda, competition-wise, for Lee Priest?
Still up in the air. Maybe there's a couple of one show to qualify for Olympia in September I'm thinking about, but if not that, definitely your show next year for sure. But at the moment I'm just sort of busy pushing the product line and doing that, so I'm just going to see where it goes, and I'll probably come off the diet a little bit after guest posing today, and then just take it from there. And if I do to get ready for the Olympia, I'll just diet down again, but if not, I'll just start dieting December for your show.
It'll be nice to welcome you back on stage at the 2011 Australian Pro Grand Prix. Of course, you won it in 2005, one of the very few winners that we've had of our Pro Grand Prix.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago, 2005, but yeah, so that was a good show. That's actually one of my first times back in Australia in almost, I think, 8 years, 9 years since. Actually, it was my first time competing again since I think my last show was like I was 17 years old when I competed in Australia, so.
It's been a long time. Now, Lee, tell us about your supplement company. Of course, you're looking at life beyond bodybuilding. You couldn't find a satisfactory sponsor in Australia that could provide you with what you needed. You'd moved back out here. So you started Lee Priest Nutrition. Tell us a little bit about that. Are the products available here today?
Yeah, the products are available here today, and they're getting in the health food stores around everywhere, but I've been really happy with actually. I thought when I started off I might have taken off really slow and take things to get going, but it's actually moving a lot quicker than I expected. So people, once they've tried the product, I can sit here and say they're great, because my name's on them, but I just leave it up to the people, and the people who have actually got them now and used them and tried them have been coming back for more, so I just let the product speak for itself, and right now I've had no bad complaints about it, and everyone's enjoying it.
Now, people are going to criticise you, the other Australian companies are going to see you as a threat because you've got a massive name in bodybuilding, probably one of the most respected and always been the people's champion. People love Lee Priest, you know that. So obviously the fans are going to try your stuff out. How welcome are the other companies to test your products? Obviously they're going to come at you with everything they've got. Do you stand by what's in your products, and just how good are they?
Yeah, they can go ahead and test them. I mentioned once before about getting them tested, and someone on one of the boards is like, well, that's what your company should do. You should have them tested. I said, well, I have got them tested, I have got the results, but if I say, here's my results, you're going to say, well, you tested a special batch. So it's like I said, anyone can walk into any store and pick any type of my protein off the shelf and test it if they want. So I've got nothing to hide. So like I said, I've always been fearful from day one, and I've left a lot of supplement companies over the years because they lied too much about what was in their stuff and their products were shit. So I'm not going to rip people off. People work too hard for their money, and I'm not in it to make millions of dollars. I'm just in it to put out a good quality, supplement company, protein line in Australia, which I think there's so many in America, and I've always wondered why Australia doesn't have a top quality one, but that's why I decided to do my own.
And you're working with Andy Cunningham, several multi-title Australian champion who turned pro himself, and in the throngs of a comeback as we speak. You and Andy have obviously put a lot of thought and a lot of time into developing your products. And how can people find out more about them? You've got a website to promote your products?
Yeah, it's leepriestnutrition.com.au, and there is also a Facebook page that has all the updates on newer products that are coming out, because at the moment I was just going to start with the protein line, but then I went into the pre-workout and post-workout as well and stuff like that, and I've got a drink out called Hydrator. It's like a Powerade drink, but a lot better type thing, and people are actually liking that one as well. So
I would like to wish you all the best with your supplement company, Lee. And you're the named sponsor here today, of course. The first thing Lee did when he announced his supplement company was up and ready to run, was going to be almost ready by the time our pro show was on. I know you and Andy pushed every button you could, and the first thing he did was to call me and say, can we put some money back into bodybuilding and sponsor your pro show and get a booth there to launch, have a worldwide launch of our products, which we were very proud to do. But more importantly, speaking for myself as a promoter and for Paul and Carol, who've had your support. You always said you wanted to put back into the sport. The first thing you've done is sponsored our IFBB shows, and we thank you for that, because you haven't tried to get discounts on the great Lee Priest. What can you do for me?
I didn't know I could get one. But now...
you come in and just did what you had to do, which we really, really appreciate and want to thank you for. But secondly, you've got behind some great Australian bodybuilders and you're sponsoring them. Who have you signed up, and how's your Lee Priest team coming together?
Good. Right now we have Victor and Claire. So like they're great amateurs here in Australia. We're actually still looking for more, and that might go into some professionals eventually. But as I said, because we're just starting off, I wasn't sure whether to sign some up straight away, but I figured we may as well, because like I said, I remember when I was an amateur, and every little bit helps when you're coming up in bodybuilding, whether it just be supplements or help paying to get to a contest or stuff like that. Just contest prep in itself is hard. So if you're going to have someone behind you helping you, like I said, every little bit helps. So took Victor on and took Claire on, and they're doing really well. So
fantastic. Now, Lee, you're making your comeback. You're back in an awesome shape. I got to see you last week, and folks are in for a real thrill when you see him today. Maybe I should tell them you look like shit, then they're going to get a pleasant surprise when you look good.
That'll be expecting it then. So.
Just one final question, Lee. How important, of course, everybody has to go to the mecca of bodybuilding, to California to train, and people think you've got to live in America to sustain this level of training. You're back in Newcastle, training pretty much on your own. Half your workouts are at home. How important is it to be in America doing your bodybuilding, or can you get in just a great shape here?
You get in shape anywhere. Like I said, when I won my first pro show, I trained at home for 8 months in the garage. I never even went to a big gym. I only went to a gym probably late at night to do cardio, just to watch some of the idiots on the floor training, to entertain myself while I was doing cardio. But half the time I just trained at home. And I said, when you go to America, if you're starting, it's good because you get the publicity, and the photographers there can see you in America and get the magazines. But as far as training goes, I pretty much train at home, pretty much no music, because when I trained in America, I was at Gold's for probably 3 years, but the rest of my time I was at Joe Gold's gym, and Joe Gold had no music. You weren't allowed to make a noise. If you dropped the weights, he'd kick you out pretty quick and stuff like that. So I said, just get motivated. You come from within. Some people need music, some people need, like I said, atmosphere and go to the gym, but some people just like to go to the gym to be seen and throw weights around and look like idiots. But I said I just prefer to train at home where it's quiet. And like I said, when you go to do it, you just do it. You don't need all these other crazy stuff that people think you've got to be in America. But like I said, as long as you've got dumbbells, barbell and a bench somewhere, you can pretty much train anywhere.
I think you'll always train, Lee. I've known Lee since he was a kid, and I think he's one of those people who will always train. And just one quick story, folks. When Lee had his arm surgery last year, and he come down to my gym to watch the Pro Grand Prix that he trained for, and then stuffed up lifting a television. But he came down to watch the show and said, "Oh, can I train in the gym?" I said, "Of course, we'll be honoured." And out he went and did one-arm dumbbell presses and had a one-arm workout. He had one arm in a sling, and everyone was passing the weights to his good side and holding him down so he didn't flip off the bench. But you never stopped training even through that surgery, through all your breaks, through your obesity, through your contest shape, through everything you've done. Can you see yourself training for the rest of your life? Is bodybuilding a lifetime journey for Lee Priest?
I think so. It's pretty much in the family. Like my grandfather got me started when I was 12. Like I started competing when I was 13 years old, and he pretty much trained up until the day he passed away, and he was in his 80s and stuff. And like I said, he'll go to the gym, he'll do a circuit class, and then go to the gym for an hour after circuit, then he'll go do an aerobic class, Then, like I said, when I was 17, my mother, she wanted to asked me would I do the couples with her, and I was like, oh, my mum likes to eat like meat at the time, so she was a little heavy. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do the couples, whatever, get in shape, and I'll do it. And sure enough, she got in shape, and we're the first mother and son to actually win the couples in the world competing together. So I think the training is in the family, so I guess stupidity runs in the family, and I'll probably keep doing it for God knows how long, but so actually my mother's here today somewhere to see me guest pose. So.
That's nice. Your mum's always been a great supporter.
In the beginning it was like, you don't want to look like that, do you? But from that point on, after my first show when I was 13, her and my grandmother were probably my biggest supporters. So.
Kept their scrapbooks and all your magazine cutouts over the years.
Yeah, and she's a nurse, so maybe she'd give me a shot once or twice.
Couldn't help yourself, could you? Here we go.
Actually, she was too scared to give me a shot, but then she'd put it in, if I think she'd pull it back out. I'm like, shit, now you've got to put it back in again.
I thought we finally got through an interview without anything controversial.
No, that wouldn't be the same, would it?
All these years I was thinking he's going to let me down.
That's just a made-up story anyway.
Most of your stories are, but we don't want to let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Exactly.
you've always called us it is, and I think you have been the people's champion, both here and in America. You've always been one of the most popular bodybuilders in the world. Looking back over your career, it's been a good ride.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't regret anything. People have always said maybe Lee could have did better if you kept your mouth shut and did this and said that or didn't say that, but that wouldn't be me. I've always just been myself, and you can like me or hate me, love me, whatever, but you ask me a question, I'll give an answer no matter what it is. And when it came down to things in the IFBB or whatever, I just said what I believed in. People might not believe the same thing, but I am who I am, and like I said, a lot of things I said did get me in trouble and stuff like that. And when that other organisation started up, I just wanted to try something different. People thought I was doing it to slap the IFBB in the face, but because I've been in the IFBB for 15 years, I just wanted to try a different organisation. That's the main reason I did it. And people are like, oh, you're doing this to the IFBB. I said, look, I just want to compete. I don't care where I compete. I just want to compete. So then I got the 2-year suspension for that and type thing. But I just pretty much marched to being my own drum type thing, and just do what I like to do and just have fun doing it. So I don't take life too serious. So.
You never have, mate. You're back here to stay?
Yeah, I've been back almost 2 years now, so pretty much back here to stay.
You're married, life's good, your wife's here, your mum's here.
My daughter's here.
Your daughter's here, your product range. And life's pretty good for Lee Priest.
Not too bad. I'm going to go to Centrelink next week and sign up. Hey, I want to be a true Aussie.
Right into it. Looking more time to truck.
Just got to start trying. I'm not sure about the beer yet. I haven't got the taste for beer, but once I get the beer and Centrelink going, I'll be
Yeah, we do pass the bottle up, you're right.
Exactly.
Mate, you've got to get backstage and pump up your body and show the folks where you're at. And we'd just like to thank you for coming here today, not just to support the show as a sponsor, but for getting yourself into real good shape for the fans. And I know you have, because they're going to be talking about you, Lee. They've got hidden cameras everywhere, and we're all up on the internet. Oh, Lee Priest.
I can hardly wait to read the internet. Yeah.
Straight over tonight, getbig.com. No, you'll be right. And mate, we just want to thank you on behalf of myself, Paul Carroll.
Maybe Paul there, the Pepsi Max. What's in the bag? Sandwiches?
He's not even listening. He doesn't even know we're here.
It's all about Paul. Hey Paul, what's in the bag? Sandwiches? Thank you.
Talking about beating to your own drum.
I've been here a couple of years, so I was going to say nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're all going to be old and silly one day. We just want to thank you, mate, on behalf of all of the, of Paul and Carol and myself, and most of all, on behalf of all the Australian bodybuilding fans, for you getting in shape, coming in today to see them and show them what you've got. Thank you, Lee Priest. Don't change. Keep being yourself, mate. We love you. Lee Priest, ladies and gentlemen. The one and only.